Hello and welcome. This guide has been put together by the tax experts at My Tax Accountant to walk you through a really crucial topic, so you're thinking about deregistering for VAT. You probably think that once it's done, your dealings with HMRC are over for good. But what if I told you there's a hidden rule that could end up costing you thousands of pounds, years down the line? Let's dive in. So you've done it. You've gone through the whole process, you've deregistered for VAT, and you can finally breathe that huge sigh of relief. No more quarterly returns, right? Well, before you pop the champagne, there's a critical detail that honestly most people completely miss, and it's a detail that can have some pretty serious financial consequences. Let's make this a bit more real. Let me introduce you to Aisha. She's a freelance graphic designer based in London. Last year, her turnover dipped just below the threshold, so she did the sensible thing and deregistered for VAT. She was thrilled, less admin, less stress, but what Aisha didn't realize was that a 6-year countdown had just started ticking, a countdown that could put her entire business at risk.
And this is where things get really serious. It's what we call the 6-year shadow. For a full 6 years after you deregister, you are legally, and I mean legally, required to keep all your old VAT records. This is not a friendly suggestion from HMRC. It's a hard and fast rule with very, very costly penalties if you ignore it.
6 years. Just let that number sink in. That's the magic number, the length of time HMRC requires you to hold on to your VAT records after you've deregistered. You can think of it like this. The day you deregister, a clock starts. And if HMRC decides to knock on your door anytime during those 6 years, you absolutely have to have everything in perfect order.
So what exactly are we talking about when we say records? Well, it's not just a few of your biggest sales invoices. HMRC expects a complete, comprehensive archive of your entire VAT history. We're talking every single invoice you sent out and every one you received, your VAT account details, any adjustments or corrections you made, basically the whole shebang. It sounds like a lot, I know, but it is absolutely essential.
But why 6 years? What's the logic behind that specific number? Well, it's pretty simple, really. HMRC has a very long memory, and crucially, the power to investigate your tax affairs long after you think you've moved on. So let's break down how this actually works and what it can mean for you.
You see, HMRC's power to look back at your books isn't random. It all depends on how they judge your past actions. If you made an honest mistake but you took what they call reasonable care, they've got a 4-year window to look into it. But if they decide an error was down to careless behavior, that window immediately extends to 6 years. And in the most serious cases, if they believe an error was deliberate, they can go back a full 20 years.
Now you're probably thinking, okay, but what could possibly trigger an audit years after I've deregistered? It could be something surprisingly simple, a tiny discrepancy on your self-assessment, or maybe a tip-off from another source. The reasons aren't always clear, but the consequences are. And you need to stay with me here, because this next point is a digital trap that catches out so many businesses today.
With the big shift to making tax digital, or MTD, the whole game of record keeping has completely changed. You know, what used to be a simple box of papers tucked away in the loft now comes with a whole new set of digital challenges and some very real risks for people who aren't prepared.
Now here's a massive trap that someone like our freelancer Aisha could easily fall into. You assume that your cloud accounting software is like a permanent digital filing cabinet, right? Wrong. The hard reality is the moment you stop paying for that subscription, you can lose access to everything. And just like that, with one click of a cancel button, you are in breach of the 6-year rule, because you can no longer produce the records you're legally required to keep.
Okay, so here's a pro tip for you, and this one is absolutely vital. Before you even think about canceling your accounting software subscription, you must export all of your data. And I don't just mean downloading a few PDF invoices. You need a complete searchable digital record of your entire VAT history in a format that HMRC can work with. It's your only proof.
That's not all. Here's where most people go wrong. What actually happens if you get caught out, or you just can't produce the records HMRC is asking for? Well, this is where the real financial pain can begin. The penalties for non-compliance are steep, so let's take a proper look at what the real costs are for the 2025/26 tax year.
HMRC's penalty system is kind of like getting points on your driving license. For late filing, every deadline you miss gets you a point. Once you've racked up enough points, you're hit with a £200 fine. And believe me, that's just the start. If an audit uncovers late payments or inaccuracies, they have their own, even tougher set of penalties.
And those late payment penalties can snowball incredibly fast. If an audit finds you owe tax, you get a short 15-day grace period. But after that, the fines start piling up.
At 31 days overdue, the penalty doubles. And on top of all that, you're being charged daily interest until every last penny is paid back.
Now, the penalties for errors found in your old returns are even more severe. HMRC links the penalty directly to what they believe your intent was. A simple, careless mistake could cost you up to 30% of the tax you owe. But if they decide you were deliberate and concealed about it, you could be facing a penalty of up to 100%, which basically doubles your original tax bill.
Now let's look at the next step. Knowing all these risks can be pretty frightening, I get it. But the good news is you can turn that fear into action. There is a simple methodical checklist you can follow to make sure your business is fully compliant and completely audit-proof for the full 6 years.
Here it is, your 5-step plan for total peace of mind. 1. Get your official deregistration date confirmed by HMRC. 2. Make sure that final VAT return is submitted perfectly and on time. 3. And this is the big one, export all your digital records before you cancel your software. 4. Archive everything securely. And finally, number 5, open up your calendar and set a reminder for exactly 6 years from your deregistration date. Follow these steps and you can rest easy.
Feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this? You're definitely not alone. Navigating the complexities of UK tax law can feel like you're walking through a minefield. But the most important thing to remember is that you absolutely do not have to do it by yourself.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to this. That 6-year record-keeping rule isn't just a friendly suggestion you can choose to ignore. By being meticulous and preparing properly today, you ensure that a closed chapter of your business stays well and truly closed and doesn't come back to haunt you with a surprise bill from HMRC in the future.
If you need any help navigating the ins and outs of VAT deregistration, the experts at My Tax Accountant can guide you through every single step. They can make sure your records are fully compliant and even handle any communications with HMRC for you. You can get in touch with them today for expert advice on 0208-570-8531, or you can email them at info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk.
And just a quick but important reminder, this presentation is for general guidance and informational purposes. For advice that's tailored specifically to you and your business, it's always best to speak with a qualified professional, like the team at My Tax Accountant. For more essential tips on staying ahead of all your tax obligations, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.